Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Techno Talks here. So today I have another comparison for y'all. So this time it's going to be another speed test, and it's going to be between the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE on the right and the Samsung Galaxy S10e on the left. This one's going to be an interesting one because you could consider the S20 FE to be an upgrade of the S10e. However, you could also say that the S10 Lite might be an upgrade. The S10 Lite might be the lower end of it. However, I do have the S10e on hand, and since the S10e was considered to be like the lower end version of the S10 series, and so is the S20 for the S20 series, I'm going to go ahead and compare these. So first up, let's talk about some of the specs on these phones. If you guys remember, in one of my other speed test videos, I said that the S20 FE had 8 gigabytes of RAM. However, I was wrong. I did go ahead and write that down in the comments. I'm sorry for that misunderstanding. The S20 FE has 6 gigabytes of RAM, and it has the Snapdragon 865 chipset. And the S10e has the Snapdragon 855 chipset, which is last year's flagship chipset, and it has 6 gigabytes of RAM as well. So RAM-wise, they're very similar. They both have the same amount of RAM. However, the chipset is better on the S20 FE. So if you guys have watched my previous speed test videos, you guys know how this goes. I start up with a boot up, and then I go through some apps, RAM management, and at the end, I go ahead and run a CPU benchmark. So let us begin. First up, we're going to start with a boot up test. So let's go ahead and click these buttons in 3, 2, 1. Okay. So they're both starting right now. Let's see which one turns on first. So the S20 FE did load up that Samsung logo first. It might be the win for the S20 FE. So let us see. Okay, the S20 FE and the S10e. That was very similar. Pretty interesting. That was actually pretty nice. Very similar with both of the phones. Around like half a second for the S10e. It came a little late, but that is no problem. And really, the boot up test doesn't show too much. So let me go ahead and open these phones up and go ahead and switch to the app screen, and I'll get back to you guys. So I wait a little bit for both the phones to turn on completely. I went ahead and checked out all the apps. I closed all background apps. So let me show you real quick. All the background apps are closed. And I guess we can begin this test. So you guys already know the procedures I take, how I do these tests. All these phones are set to their performance modes, so there shouldn't be any unfairness there. So we can begin. Let's go ahead and start with our stock apps. Let me just adjust this real quick. Start in 3, 2, 1. Let's go with phone. Okay, so S20 FE faster animations, messages, S20 FE again, Play Store. Very similar. I believe the S10e did load in some of the things first. Let's go to internet. Okay, so it was very similar again. Oh yeah, before I continue, there is something. The S20 FE has 120 hertz refresh rate display, so that might make it look faster, which it obviously will. You guys not be able to see that on the screen since it is a 60 FPS video. So let us continue. Very similar again. Camera. Okay, so both the modules opened up first. Let's just switch this. So the S20 FE a little faster. Not a big deal. Instagram. Okay, so they were both very similar. I believe that I believe Instagram loaded first on the S20 FE. Snapchat. That was very similar. Twitter. Okay, so the S10e did load up the new tweets first. YouTube. Okay, so very similar again. Amazon. So that was the S20 FE by a tiny bit, not too much of a difference. Best Buy. Okay, very similar again. Let's start with the game. So let me just go ahead and turn down my volume just to make sure, so we don't have to listen to the volume of the game. And we are ready. Let's go with Subway Surf in 3, 2, 1. So S20 FE maybe. S20 FE. Overall gaming performance, when you're actually playing the games, you're probably not going to see too big of a difference. Maybe loading times, as I said, they might differ from phone to phone. However, that's probably not a big differentiating property for those devices. So if your device loads it up faster, doesn't mean the game overall isn't going to run smoothly on the phone that didn't. So I don't see that as too big of a difference between the phones. However, I just go ahead and include them in the test just in case. So I'll Temple Run 2 in 3, 2, 1. S20 FE. Yep. So the S20 FE did load in first. Let's go ahead and open Dead Trigger 2. So there's something going on with the S10e right there. S20 FE did load it in first again. So let's just click play and see which one opens it up first. So the S10e. However, the S20 FE is loading up a different animation. So once you click play, I don't think I can count something because it is a weird animation. You don't know which phone's going to open up what after the game opens up. So overall game opening time, when I first clicked the app, it was the S20 FE. So I'm going to give it to the S20 FE. Let's go with Pubg Mobile. Okay, so loaded the screen up first. PUBG Corporations. So I think the S20 FE is going to win. Unless the S10e just manages to catch up. But the S20 FE did load in faster. We're still on the loading screen for the S10e. A couple seconds, 2 to 3 seconds, not a big deal. So that's pretty nice. Now we can go ahead and do our RAM management test. I'm going to go ahead and skip the stock apps because there really isn't too much that you can see on those. It's obviously not going to reload. Play Store reloads, but it only reloads the apps and games that are on there and the ads since it does get connected to the internet again. So I'm just going to go ahead and skip those and move on with the third-party apps. So let's go ahead and open Instagram. No reloads. Snapchat. Twitter. Okay, going great so far. YouTube. Amazon Shopping. Best Buy. Let's go ahead. We're on the games. Okay, so they're doing pretty well. I'm actually kind of surprised. If you want to know, you guys, if you did see my last video, the Samsung devices, I don't know what's going on, but usually they've had some RAM management problems for the past month and a half. I've had issues with RAM, and I'm not sure what's going on. But this is surprising. It might have been a software issue. Generally, that shouldn't be happening. However, if it is, Samsung has managed to fix it, and I have not seen any reloads from all those apps. So that's very nice. These phones are very similar with each other. S20 FE did open some apps up faster. However, that's probably not going to be a big differentiating factor, but the S20 FE does win in that category. So now that we're done with all those, let's go ahead and open up Geekbench 5. Let me go ahead and close these apps first. Close all. Let's open up Geekbench 5 and go ahead and run a CPU benchmark test. So I'm going to click run on both of these, and once these are over, I'll get back to you guys. And finally, the CPU benchmark test is over. And let's go ahead and check out these scores. So single score for the S20 FE is 582 right here, and for the S10e it's 747. That's pretty interesting because the S10e does beat it by around 200 points, and that actually is interesting since the S20 FE does have the better chipset. I'm not sure why, but I would like to point out something. I have been having some issues with the S20 FE. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm getting terrible scores. Sometimes it just drops very low, and I am actually not sure what's going on. If you guys know the reason for this, go ahead and leave a comment down below so I can fix this issue and not have to deal with it anymore. So let me go ahead and bring the brightness up for these phones. Okay, so multi-score, the S20 FE does win. It wins by around 600 points, which is expected. That's an overall good score for the Snapdragon 865 chipset. Let me go ahead and bring these up close. So 582 single, 3178 for multi-core, and for the S10e we have 747 single, 2561 multi-core. So overall, these scores are pretty great. But just based on the scores, they are kind of similar and kind of different. But the S20 FE does win in this category. It does win in multi-core, but loses in single-core. So we could technically call this a tie. However, overall speed performance is probably going to be better on the S20 FE with the new Snapdragon 865 chipset. So that concludes our speed test. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.